All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. So as you can see, I am already in Jamboard. So it's really easy to access. For those of you that don't know how to access Jamboard, all you have to do is go over to the Google Apps waffle, click on it, and you should find the Jamboard app in there. And you just click on it and it takes you to a page that looks something like this, okay? So these are all of the Jamboards that I've created so far. To add a new one, I just click this plus button where it says New Jam. And it's going to open an untitled Jamboard. To give the Jamboard a title, it's like any other Google Apps doc. You just go up and you click on it, and then it allows you to enter a new, to rename it. So I'll just name this sample. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to start off by going through each of the tools and showing you how they work, explaining them, and then I'll show you some examples of how I've used it in the past, and how some other teachers have used it in the past as well, just so you can see how you might best be able to use it for your students. So as you can see over here, we have the opportunity to zoom in and out using this button here. We can also set a background, so you can have a plain white background, but you could also change it to dots if you wanted to do some sort of like line graph or something. We have a white lined paper looking background over here, graphing paper, graphing paper that's in gray. You could change it to blue, you could change it to black. You can even add your own image, either from your Google Drive, your camera. You can Google image search and just upload it to change the background of your Jamboard. So I'm gonna stick with white for now. To clear the whole frame, so if you had started writing on the Jamboard and then you wanted to erase it, you would just click clear frame and that would erase the entire frame. Now I do want to point out that you don't have to clear the frame to get a new Jamboard. So for example, if you were teaching math and you wrote a math problem on the first one, but you didn't want to completely erase all of your work, you wanted to save it so that kids could go back and look at it for reference, all you have to do to get a new clean Jamboard is just click this arrow here and it creates a new frame. So now you have multiple frames that you can flip back and forth through, okay? And if I click on this down arrow, it shows me the 2 frames that I have already. And if I click on these buttons, I could duplicate it or I could delete it. I could add an additional frame either before, in the middle, or after these frames by just clicking the add button, okay? So it does allow me to create sort of this slideshow sort of effect. And then it also gives me more space so that I don't actually have to, delete things that I want to refer back to. So to draw and mark up your Jamboard, you have a few options. So there's the pen option here, and you have 6 colors. You also have a marker, a highlighter, and a paintbrush. So I'll just, draw this for you. So as you can see, the paintbrush is a little bit more translucent. The highlighter is also fairly translucent. Here's Yerma, we'll let her in. The marker is a little bit more opaque, but less wide. And then you have a pen as well, okay? So lots of teachers have been using the pen, the marker, the highlighter to write notes on the Jamboard. Some people find it a little bit cumbersome to use the trackpad or their mouse to, like, you know, write letters. I can see, you know, that might be difficult to do like your whole class while writing with your trackpad or your mouse. One suggestion that I do have that a colleague of mine is using is getting like like a magic trackpad. I know he got one through Apple, and I think he said it was like $60. And basically what it is, it's a pad and it comes with a stylus, and you write on that pad. And then it, you know, it writes on the Jamboard for you using this pen feature. But instead of, you know, like actually writing with the mouse, you're writing with a stylus on this pad. So that might be something that you would want to consider if you did want to use the marker feature to actually handwrite notes. There's also an eraser. So, you know, you could either clear the whole frame or you could use the eraser to just clear part of it. There's an arrow button. So you're going to see that we're going to be able to add images and sticky notes and shapes, and you'll be able to move those around by having selected this arrow button. The next option is the sticky note. So this is normally what I would use to take notes for students. There is a limited number of characters that you can put on each note, but you can see here. As I write, this bar starts to fill up, so you could see when you start to run out of space. You can change the background colors on these sticky notes, or you could have no background color. I'll keep mine as yellow. And then I can, you know, move it around. So I can make it bigger, okay? I can click edit if I want to change it. I could duplicate it if I wanted to, okay? The other option is to add images. So I really like this feature because if I'm talking to students about a particular, you know, word and they don't know what it means, all I have to do is go over to where it says image, Google search, and then I can just search images. So if I'm talking about trees and my kids don't know what a tree is, I go here, I select my image, and I just insert it, and now it's in my Jamboard and it's movable. It's also, you know, I can make it bigger and smaller, I can rotate it, and I could also duplicate it. I can also adjust the order, so I can send this to the back or to the front if I want to. Okay, so that, you know, it either hides a portion of the screen or is at the back. Another option here are that I can add shapes. So, you know, I have arrows, circles, squares, all your basic shapes can be added. Again, you can adjust the order, you can duplicate them. You really cannot fill them in color. Oh, actually you can fill them in color-wise, I'm sorry. So you could choose up here, your fill color appears once you've created the shape, and then you can alter it, or you can leave it as transparent. You can also alter the border color if you'd like. Okay. So finally, there is this text box. So this is actually a newer feature. I don't believe the text box was available when I first started using Jamboard. So this is really nice because if you didn't want to put anything, if you did want to write longer notes than those that you're going to put on sticky notes, then you could do it in this text box. And I can adjust up here. I can adjust how large I want the text to be. I can adjust the color of the text, and I can adjust the alignment. So as I said, that is sort of a new feature that was not available when this first came out. The other thing that we have is the laser. And I also really like this for working with students and using it whole group because you just press down and you can circle things or like point out specific parts of your Jamboard. And then it just, makes like a laser circle or line around it. And then it just disappears on its own. So this is really, convenient if you wanted to point things out to your students. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult to see, a white mouse pointer on a white background. So I do like to use the laser for that purpose. Okay. So just to come back up here again, so you can see, now you can see that I have, my filled in slide here. What I've done in the past is if I knew I was going to have slides that were similar, I would just go up here and I would duplicate it. And then you can move them around. So you can change the order of them. And then I would just, go over to the slide and then adjust it as needed. But when I show you how I've used it in my class, you'll see, what I mean and why it's really nice to have that duplicate button because you can just, quickly adjust things. So there you go. That's how you use Jamboard. The other nice thing about Jamboard is that if you also go over here, you can download the Jamboard to a PDF file, or you can save a particular frame or a particular slide as an image, and then you can upload it to your Google Classroom or to Canvas and use it as a reference. So I know teachers who have done that as well. They've made posters on Jamboard, or they've made like little mini slideshows on Jamboard that were informational in nature. Then they downloaded them as a PDF, and then the kids could just use them as a resource in Google Classroom. So that's also a really nice feature. Now, there are a few ways that you can utilize Jamboard. So you could either utilize it as, just a way for you doing a teacher-fronted lesson, could share the information or take notes for students. The other option is that you could go up here to share, and you could make this an interactive session. So if you wanted students to be able to write on a Jamboard with you, or for example, if you, we'll use math again as an example, if you had a math problem on a Jamboard and you wanted a student to be able to access the Jamboard and then, write their answer on it, or multiple students, all you have to do is go up here to share, and then you can add students to it. So, if I wanted 1 or 2 students to be added to my Jamboard, I just type in I start to type in their name or email address, and I share it with them. I can get the link down here and then just drop it in my Zoom chat. They can open it up and then they can work on it, and we can work on it simultaneously and collaborate. Okay, so that's just an example of how you might want to use it. I'm going to give you a few more examples. So I'm going to X out of here, and I'm going to go back over to my waffle and open Jamboard again and just show you some examples of how it's been used. So for me, with my first graders, we did a few things. So we had this and families and at families. And basically all I did was I copied and pasted these pictures from a worksheet as separate images. So I went down here to my snip tool, and there is also a similar tool on the MacBooks. I'm not sure what it's called, and I can't remember the key code to access it, but if you Google snipping tool MacBook, it will tell you, you know, what buttons to press, like what keyboard shortcut to press to open this kind of thing up. And I just went up here to snip, and I clicked new, and then I could basically just take a picture of my screen. So for example, I had a worksheet available, and I just copied a picture of the picture on the worksheet. So then after I make the snip, it's already copied to my clipboard, and I just go Control V, and it pastes the picture directly to my Jamboard. Okay, so now I have it here as a movable image. So for me, when I've been working with first grade, I like to project this screen on my Zoom for the kids to see. And then I would ask them, like, okay, you know, I would say to them, like, this is a pan, where should it go? And they would tell me, and then I would drag it and drop it into the appropriate spot. Another option, if I was working with some older kids, I work with a first grade group, but if I were working with older kids who were able to toggle between a Zoom screen and another open tab, I could just share this with them and have, you know, ask for volunteers to do it for me, because this would be like, once I shared it with them, it would be open for them to collaborate and do it with me. So that's, you know, one option. Go back here. So I've also done it with, you know, phonics with my younger students as well. So we were talking about CH and TH blends. And, you know, I had these sticky notes over here and these pictures available. And I would ask them, okay, you know, this person is thinking, what letter sounds, which H combination goes with the word think, and then they would tell me CH or TH, and I would just drag it and drop it over for them. Then we moved on and we practiced sounding out words. So as you can see, I basically used the sticky notes feature and the color coordinated feature to sort of highlight the blend that we were talking about, as well as, you know, the vowels were in a different color and then the other consonants were in a different color. So I like to use those sticky notes for that purpose as well. And then we had, you know, our little car, and we practiced blending. Okay, so it's easy to manipulate the images on Jamboard to be able to do this. And as you can see, the Jamboard itself is quite large. I know that a lot of teachers are using Google Slides to do similar things like this. But when I open my Google Slides, I feel like the image is much smaller. So it's a little bit harder for the kids to see. So that's why I really like to use Jamboard, because it enables me to show this projected much larger when I'm sharing my screen on Zoom. Again, if I go up to the top where it says expand frame bar, you can see that all of my slides look pretty much exactly alike. I've just changed the picture. So to make this Jamboard was super easy. It took me like 5 minutes, because all I did was make the first slide and then I just duplicated it multiple times and changed the pictures and the text on the sticky notes. So it took me, you know, 5 minutes to create a Jamboard of 11 slides. So that is those are a few ways that I've been using it with the little kids. Other teachers, especially in the upper grades, have also been assigning Jamboards to their students via Google Classroom, which I think is also really nice. So, for example, this is one of the Jamboards that was assigned to a student. They were doing an activity where they had to, they were involved in like a volcanic eruption, and they had to choose 5 of the items, that were left over from the plane crash that they were going to take with them to survive. And so they had to, open up the Jamboard, drag the numbers over to the 5 items that they wanted. And then on each of the sticky notes, they were actually, the student didn't do it, but they were actually required to write reasons why they chose each of those items. So the way that you can assign a Jamboard in your Google Classroom is really easy. And I'm just going to show you how to do that right now. So this is what that teacher did. So she created the original Jamboard with just the pictures and the numbers, and then assigned that, and then the student was able to manipulate it. So if I go up here and I open Google Classroom, I'll go to sample class. I just go over to classwork, click create, assignment, and say I wanted to do this, with my ANAT sort, I could say. I go down here to where it says add, find the original Jamboard that I would like to share with them. So if I go up here and I search, oh, as you can see, it's actually already come up because I've opened it already. So I'm going to give them the ANAT families Jamboard. I'm going to change this to students can edit file to make a copy for each student. And then I'm going to assign it. And then when the students open that assignment, they'll see the original Jamboard, but it will, save with their name on it, and then they can manipulate it however they want. Another option, if you wanted to do this with like a group, would be to just when you go to, instead of saying make a copy for each student, you could select students can edit file and then assign it to only a particular group of students, so that they could collaborate on the same document together. Okay, so that's how you could assign it as, a group document where they could all work on it together. Or if you wanted them to each have their own individual file, you would just select make a copy for each student. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Well, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So that's pretty much how I'm using it. I welcome any other ideas for how to use it as well.
That was absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad that I sat in on it, because there was some little features that I didn't think about clicking on that I could use, because I've been subbing for teachers, and I was teaching a chemistry class, and using that shared document and having kids be able to collaborate is going to be wonderful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
I'm looking forward to that. Do you know that magic like trackpad that you were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Does that also work for like other, like if, for example,
I
if
think
you're
it does.
like if you're in Zoom and you're using the whiteboard on Zoom, would it work for that too?
Yeah, I think so. At least, so do you know David Green?
Yes.
Yeah, he's using it. He bought one. He really likes his. He said it was like $50 or $60 or something. And if you're using it all the time, like if you're using your whiteboard all the time, on Zoom or just a Jamboard, I would think it was worth it. If I were teaching, full time, I would probably get one.
Because for things like when we're in math and doing like long division
Yes.
with like your trackpad can be a little challenging.
Exactly. So it's nice that the Jamboard has that text feature now, which,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't remember it being there before. That's kind of a new feature that I feel like just came out or didn't come out when I first started looking at Jamboard. But if you're doing like math and things like that, it's really hard to use like your keyboard to show that. Or even, you know, you want to do like a little drawing or make a little diagram. It's hard sometimes to, you know, to draw those things out using your finger on your trackpad when you could have a stylus and just do it, you know?
It's either messy or it takes forever.
Yeah. I sat in on a class and the 6th grade teacher had gotten really good at doing it. But she was like, at the beginning, it was awful. And she's using her trackpad and she was like drawing like little, you know, diagrams because she was teaching chemistry, I think, or science to some of her to the class. And I was like, oh, she's drawn like molecules and stuff using the trackpad.
Yeah.
But thank you. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. You have my email. You can ask me now. It's up to you.
Yeah. I think that this will be really helpful because a lot, you know, when you're asking for like kids to participate and they'll tell me like, you know, like to circle this or like I drag it, but I think it would be better like in 5th grade, they are obviously like capable of doing both things at the same time. So that'll be
right.
good.
They can definitely toggle back and forth. And you can just, you know, and I'm sure that there are some kids who would like to like draw all over the board. But then, you know, I'm sure that they're mature enough to be like, if you were like, oh, Jonathan, can you be the one to circle the answer on the board or, you know, to write the answer on the board, that they, you know, they'd hopefully be
Yeah.
responsible.
And does it, I mean, since you didn't share it with anybody, will learn